Schmo. Joe Schmo. The Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo.
Welcome into the Joe Schmo Sports Show. We are the Schmoes, Clint, Dom, and Dre. What's up, fellas?
What's going on, Clint? How you doing today?
I'm doing well, sir. More times than not, guys, here on the Joe Schmo Sports Show, we try to interview people that have interesting and different perspectives from the world of sports, and today is no different. We have Mr. Tommy DiBlasi here from the number 19 Martin Truex car, who is the tire specialist. How are things going? Oh, chillin', man. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day. We'll talk about this in a little while, but Dom was saying how much of a busy week that you have. So I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about that in a little while, man. But Tommy, why don't we start off here, man? Tell us what a tire specialist does.
So every week you get a certain amount of tires. So say there are 10, 11 sets of tires for the race weekend. Obviously there's 4 sets or 4 tires in a set. So my job is I get to the track, I get all 11 sets. I take each tire individually, measure the circumference of them, get the wear numbers off of them, spring rates, get all the data off of each individual tire, put it all into a spreadsheet on the computer, and then from there I just start working where we want our tires to be, where we want, if we want them loose, tight, where you want the stagger, if you want a lot of stagger, a little bit of stagger, if you want the first set to start. If you think the track's going to be tight, you'll want a little bit more stagger later on in the race. So you just move your tires around and set them where you want.
Tommy, our audience generally, they're like football, college basketball type folks. They may get into a little golf, this and that. So we're giving people who may not necessarily get a lot of exposure to NASCAR or racing in general. Yeah, Clint over here is some exposure to this through having conversation with you. So when you use words like tight and loose, what does that mean for a car? How does that impact your driver's ability to be competitive in the field in a particular week?
So tight, when you're going in to the turn at 190 miles an hour, once the car gets into the turn, it'll start pushing up towards the wall.
Okay.
And he has to turn the wheel more to get it to wrap around the corner.
Okay.
If he's loose, when he gets into the turn, the back end starts skating out on him. And it's like a dirt track. At start turn, it starts getting off on you. So you can't get back to the gas or the back end will turn it out.
Okay, so the vast majority of people on the planet, they
they
drive in normal traffic. Maybe they get up to 90 miles per hour on a flat interstate, and they're in traffic, and they've got normal tires and things like that. What does that mean? What does that feel like to drive 190 miles per hour? And what does a track actually feel like? Because I've seen them, and it looks like you're staring at a wall, right? They're driving literally on a concrete wall. So what is the difference? Can you explain it in real world terms to people who haven't actually experienced this before?
I don't know how to explain that. Bumpy.
It's
definitely not like driving a Cadillac.
No, certainly.
Teeth are chattering the whole way around.
It'd be the kind of thing that you put an average person behind the wheel of that, and they leave something in their pants, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
If they can actually get up to that speed.
So even if they were driving in a car like that, and if they were behind the wheel of a stock car, they would never get it that fast.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Not before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Can you do tighter tires like on one side or on the front or on the back? Does it make a difference?
So,
if you do tight on one, do you have to do it on all the others, or?
So on a normal weekend, you have a left side compound and a right side compound. So the left side tires will always be there. Right side tires will always be on the right side. This weekend, we go to a road course. Right. So it's all 4 tires are the exact same compound, exact same everything. So we can put those from right to left, not just front to rear like on a normal oval racetrack.
Okay, because you're normally only turning left. And so whenever you're on a road course, you have to definitely change up the game plan. So when you use words like stagger, and data for tires. Like Dre's over here like nodding and shaking his head like he understands what you're talking about. I don't. So what kind of data can you get from a tire? And I just don't understand that, I guess.
Staggers the difference between the left side and right side.
Okay.
We use millimeters just to keep it that much tighter. So just for an example, say the left side tire is 28 millimeters smaller than the right side tire. If the next set, the left side tire is only 27 millimeters than the right side tire, smaller, then that means you have 1 millimeter less stagger on that set than you had on the first set, and that will tighten you up just because of the difference from the left rear to the right rear.
And the millimeters really make that much of a difference. Like 1 millimeter can make that much of a difference. That's pretty
You can
crazy.
we'll run, say you run 45 to 50 pounds, say you have 50 pounds of air in your right rear tire. We'll do as little as 2 to 3 tenths out of that and go to 48.8, and that'll make a difference.
Wow,
so if you
that's
think
pretty
of
nuts.
shocks, spring, you have 4 shocks, you have 4 springs, you're going 200 miles an hour, and you have 50 pounds of air in your tire, and the driver can feel 2 tenths. And that's, you put the gauge on there and squirt it, and that can make a difference. So it's crazy to tell that with the engineering, on the engineering side of it, that they can get this thing that close, and the driver can feel every little ounce of everything going that fast and being that far on edge to feel something as little as that.
I would imagine going at those speeds, at those inclines, that small of a difference, the faster you get, the more the more that accentuates the difference.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you talked about having 12 different sets of tires coming into any given weekend for a race,
lot.
is that 12 sets of tires just for the main race, or does that 12 sets of tires include for qualifying, for testing, for
Practice.
Everything for the entire week,
This is
or
what
is
y'all
that
were talking
just
about.
for the race?
That's just for the race. No, obviously we haven't practiced or qualified since COVID started.
Okay.
So for the past year and a half, we've had race only. So on a normal weekend pre-COVID, you'd get 5 sets for practice and qualifying, and then you get for the race. Or just depending on some tracks, you have 9 sets of tires. Coca-Cola 600 will be, that's coming up next week.
Yeah.
That'll be,
That's
you get 13 sets of tires for that race.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you come into a race weekend and you've got your 12 sets of race tires, are all 12 sets calibrated exactly the same, or do you have different sets that are calibrated differently depending on potential race conditions on that given day, and then you may adjust the different sets depending on what's happening in the race?
So say all your left side tires, even though it's the same compound,
Okay.
they are all 24 left side tires are completely different.
Okay.
So spring rates are different. The spring rates vary, probably 70, 80 pounds. The circumference, which we call stagger. So the circumference that'll vary probably 6 millimeters.
Yeah.
So even though they're supposed to be the exact same tire, they're all very different. So that's part of my job, is make sure, like you said, to try to keep all of those sets as similar as possible, so the driver feels every time we change a set of tires, he feels as little as possible.
Now, as the tire specialist, when it comes to the time between changes and pit stops where you're making those tire adjustments, are you the one sitting there going, all right, this change, we're going to place this particular set of tires, or is that like a crew chief decision at the moment during the...
That's mainly a crew chief decision. Well, we'll have lower air pressure, worse on a short run, better on a long run. The more air pressure you have, the better you will be on a short run, worse as the air pressure builds up, and air pressure will build like 25 pounds through the run. So you want to try to maximize that. So say a caution comes out under 10 to go in a race.
Yeah.
And obviously tires are important. Everybody comes down. You want to have a set put to the side, pumped up about 3-4 pounds more than where your normal sets have been.
Okay.
So you can fire off better for a short run. You're only going to have 8 laps.
Right.
So we generally have that one set put to the side that has higher air pressure than the rest of the sets.
Most of the tires that you have are set at the same air pressure except for
Yep.
that really like that finishing set if you need it, right?
Yep. Finishing
Now-
of a stage.
Can you adjust sets of tires in race? So you're set at a certain PSI going into the race, but you realize maybe that's too tight for the particular tire conditions and you need to make modifications. Are you the one that goes and makes the modifications on all the sets of
Yes.
tires going forward?
Yep.
Okay.
So say we're out on the racetrack and he's too tight and they want to take a pound out of the right front or put a pound in the right rear.
Yeah.
Then the next few sets, the rest of the sets all make that adjustment to the one on the wall and the ones after that so they're ready to go.
Okay.
And then you just have every adjustment that comes, you just keep up with them.
So Dre had a question. He wants to know if when racing a road course, is it mandatory to use two different tires like it is in Formula One, or are there different grades of tires?
No, we don't have. So Formula One has hard compound, medium compound, and soft compound, which, I mean, that plays, the hard compound is better for a long run. They last longer. You're not as fast in the first 5, 6, 7 laps, but they don't wear out as fast. Medium's just medium ground. It's decent on a short run, decent on a long run. And then soft compound is really, really good for the first 5, 10 laps, but then they wear out because the compound's so soft and they fall out. So NASCAR tried that at the All-Star race 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, we had 4 sets of tires in the stall, and they had one set with a green Goodyear logo that was supposed to be the soft set that you could use anytime in the race, whenever you wanted.
Okay.
It didn't really work out. They were expecting that set to be like a half a second faster than the rest, thinking that the guys that put those on would be in the back and fired from the front. But it really maybe a tenth difference, and then so it ended up failing miserably. So we never tried that again. But at the road course, no. All of our compounds, every single set is the exact same.
Does your job differ from a road course to an oval?
Not really.
Yeah.
The only thing that differs is when I'm sorting tires, I can put the lefts on the rights or the rights on the lefts. Other than that, it's the same as business as usual. Measurements, circumference, wears, tire temps, tire pressure, all that stuff.
So, Tommy, I think a lot of times when people they're watching SportsCenter or something like that, they may not be a regular viewer or consumer of NASCAR or auto racing just in general. So people look at the driver, right? And that's the person, the face of the team that they recognize. But maybe they don't realize that there's like how much goes behind putting that race car out there and getting to that checkered flag, or even just getting to a finish or a start. So can you tell us a little bit about what the structure of a team is for a specific car, and then beyond that, like a racing team like Gibbs, what does that structure look like?
How much time you have? I mean, it gets pretty deep. It goes,
Okay.
You're talking, the car we're racing this weekend has been in production for weeks now. It starts in the heavy fab department where they build the chassis. Then once they get the chassis built, then the next week it goes over, gets the body put on it. And then after the body's put on it and rolled out, then it goes to the body shop, where they start shaping it. Goes to the Hawkeye machine, make sure all that's green, which is like the scan that we go through for tech. Finish fab to get all the other parts on it weeks and weeks in advance. Then it gets out to the assembly line where it starts getting engines, seats, all the basic stuff that the driver needs, brake hoses, brakes, that whole deal. By the time we get it, like the road crew, so you have the shop crew, then you have the road crew. The road crew, by the time we see the race car, it is fully assembled, pretty much wrapped, because they all get wrapped now instead of painting, like, you have to have paint schemes and the number decals and stuff. Now everything's just one wrap, and all the stuff is ingrained in the actual wrap. I mean, you hold up the whole side of the race car, and it's a thin piece of paper, and all the decals and all that are just on it.
Modern
on sheet.
technology.
So once all that, by the time we get it, really, as far as the road crew goes, our job is to go over every part of the race car, make sure all the bolts are tight, make sure the shop guys didn't miss anything. Then Then you have to scale it, get the wedge, get the right springs in, shocks on, go back through the Hawkeye a couple times after it's wrapped to make sure the scan stays on there. You have side skirts, you have backups of everything. You got to make sure that's on the truck. You know, the truck drivers do that. Toolbox, you bring these big toolboxes to the racetrack. All that has to be revamped, restocked, ready to go. Make sure you have everything you need at the racetrack that weekend. It's endless. And we spend just after the car is pretty much completely assembled and wrapped, I'd say we probably spend 30, 35 hours on it before we even get to the racetrack. Not to mention all of the hours that are put in the weeks prior to it.
So maybe make an analogy to, say, a football team, because it seems like there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of moving parts to a football team. Who's the general manager that selects the talent? Who's the guy that's the head coach? I would imagine that the driver is maybe the quarterback. I don't know what analogy that you would draw. Maybe the guys in the race day team or the offensive line or blocking and tackling. Just what would that kind of look like to somebody who's an outsider to the sport?
So Tommy's like a coordinator.
I don't know what he is.
He's like the offense.
I don't know.
It's tough to explain because racing is like no other sport. It's not. There's so many moving parts. There's so many different people. I mean, so if you were to,
Well, where does the buck stop? Who's the ultimate
Joe Gibbs
accountability?
Coach Gibbs,
Yeah.
Coach Gibbs.
he oversees, but obviously there's a lot of people under him. You have GMs, you have competition directors, but then I'd have to say probably the crew chief is
The crew
head
chief, more or
coach.
less.
At the end of the day,
Yeah, probably.
crew chief has a lot of the final say and goes into the car setup.
Does
The
the-
guys, he does the hiring of his guys. When we were at Furniture Row and Furniture Row shut down,
Mm.
the 19 car, it had Daniel Suarez and his team. When they ended up moving, they got Martin Truex, who was the driver, and Colburn, who was crew chief. When they came over, Cole was allowed to hire his guys, which luckily I ended up being one of them, but he was able to bring, 6 of us with him from Colorado to that
Nice.
team.
Okay.
So I'd have to say, ultimately would say what he puts in place. So he's probably the head coach
Is
of
the
the
crew
team.
chief is the crew chief looking over the production side too? Is he overseeing the building of the cars as well, or is there somebody else that's doing that, and the crew chief kind of takes it from, all right, the car is built, now we're going to put the finishing touches on it, and he's in charge of the racing side?
He's in charge of the racing side. So it's changed a lot. Like crew chiefs have gotten a lot different over the last 20 years.
Okay.
You used to have the roughneck mechanics who were really savvy with a race car that ended up being crew chiefs. Now
Sure.
you have engineers that are crew chiefs. So our crew chief has been an engineer his whole life. So he makes the build sheet. He has this whole sheet on how he wants the car built, what parts he wants on there, and then he sends that out to the shop head. So the head of the fab shop, the head of the body shop, the head of the assembly shop, all of them get the 19 car build sheet, and then they get it to their guys, and then essentially that's how all the parts get on the race car.
Okay.
I have a question. Now, pardon my ignorance. Is there a new car every week, barring incidents, of course?
Not brand new, but
Okay.
like the car that came back from Dover last week. So that car today went into tear down. It'll get all the parts stripped off, some of the body, whatever, get repainted. Not brand new parts, and then this car, the car we raced, probably won't see the racetrack again for another 8-9 weeks.
Okay, so what if the driver really likes the way the car ran, likes the way it felt, everything? Do you leave everything the same as long as there's no like body damage or anything?
We've done that before, and it sucks.
Why does
Different
it
race
suck?
car or different racetracks,
Well,
different
yeah, but
conditions,
say
right?
you're going from. So I don't know the tracks like that. Name 2 similar tracks. I know that you said Atlanta was hard on race cars and Darlington was hard on race cars. So let's take two tracks that are easy on race cars on cars that are 500 mile, about the same. So
When I was with Furniture Row back in 2015, I forget the races it was. I want to say it was Kansas and Charlotte. Similar, both 1.5 mile racetracks. We were in Colorado too, which made it even worse. But we ran Kansas, which is 8 hours away from Colorado. We really liked the car. We led the most laps, dominated the whole race. That car got back to the shop like 6 a.m. the next morning, and we landed, slept for about 5 hours, went into the race shop, tore everything off that car, cleaned everything, got everything back on the car, put the new setup back in the car, rewrapped it because I think it might have been different sponsors. I mean, it might have been Furniture Row. But anyway, redid the whole car, and it took 2 days of being there, 18, 19 hours a day to make sure that was ready for the next weekend. Because it takes weeks to prepare a car after it comes back.
That's crazy.
But, I mean, if you really want to, you have to think too. Not only did you put however many miles you put on during practice, but you put 500 miles on that race car. So to have to take that back, turn it all around to get it ready for a 600-mile race.
It's like an old glove for a baseball player. I don't know what kind of superstitions NASCAR drivers have. I'm sure they have some crazy stuff. I'm sure
How many stitches do you have to restitch in that glove between every single game?
So it's just I was just figuring if the driver really likes the car and likes the way everything felt and it was great and it was successful, then why wouldn't they be able to use it again? Yes, the wear and tear, you change out the tires and stuff.
I'm gonna ask a question that's gonna make your head explode here for a second. Don't the requirements for the cars change like rules wise from track to track based upon NASCAR standards?
This year.
Jeez.
Not in a normal year. The only reason why it does this year, this is going to be tough to explain, but
okay.
low downforce and high downforce. So 2016, 17, and 18, we had a low downforce package, which means the spoilers on the back of the car were very small. The splitters on the front of the car were very small. So NASCAR in 2019 decided to change it to make racing closer. They decided to go to a high downforce package, which was a high spoiler, big splitter, to create more downforce, which ultimately makes you slower down the front stretch because it's more drag. It's like having a parachute on the back of your car. But when you go through the corner, there's more air pushing down the top of the car, meaning more downforce, and they hold it more wide open. So it's less braking, lower speeds, less braking. So after doing that for 2 years, they realized for short tracks and road courses that the racing was better with low down. This just happened too in the last year. So they realized that they might have been wrong going to the high downforce. So now at short tracks and road courses, we do low downforce, 1.5 miles. We do high downforce.
People want to see speed,
go back
Tommy.
and forth. You go back and forth every damn week, whether we do low downforce or high downforce.
Yeah.
But on a normal, so you can't do the back-to-back car really. You wouldn't want to unless it's a track that's kind of.
So Tommy, what about restrictor plates?
Oh, geez.
That's we don't run restrictor plates anymore.
No more? When did that end?
They changed it to a higher downforce package with drafting ducts for super speedways, Talladega and Daytona.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, because they were the restrictor plate.
Car on 4-year-olds.
Weren't those introduced because the speeds on those just got too high and it became too dangerous for the drivers?
On the super speedways.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
But now that with the new package, with the high downforce package and motor differential, they can only get so fast.
Gotcha.
All right. So speaking of things that changed this year, talk about this no qualifying thing. How has it changed your job? How has it changed the sport? And are things getting back to normal as far as that goes, or is it going to have to wait till next season?
The no qualifying thing's been weird. It's been different. They've come out with a formula based off of points, your previous finish, fastest lap time to determine where you start for the next race. So if you have a good run previous weekend, you'll probably start well for the next race. It's been good as far as family life goes. I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, so
less time. Yeah.
We used to fly out every Thursday evening, practice and qualify on Friday, have 2 practices on Saturday, race on Sunday. 38 weekends a year is brutal. We're gone.
Yeah.
From February to November, there's 2 weekends a year that we were not gone from Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah.
Now, we either fly out Sunday morning, go to race and fly back Sunday night, or fly out late Saturday night and fly back Saturday night. So it's made life a million times better.
Yeah.
No backup cars, so during the shop during the week, You don't have to worry about getting 2 cars ready. You only have to get 1 car ready.
Are they
That's
going
not
back?
COVID.
Are they going back to the qualifying thing? I would assume at some point.
Starting this weekend.
Oh, no joke.
Oh, is that
Is
why?
that why you're
Yeah.
going
This
to
weekend-
Texas?
That's why
So
this
early.
weekend's going to
Okay.
be. Well, that's why this week is so much different.
Yeah.
So we were actually joking about it today at the shop. We were joking about how this week's going to be brutal because we have a backup car for the first time this year. So we have 2 cars to get ready.
Mm.
We're flying out Friday. We have to be at the track for practice and qualifying Saturday, race Sunday. The funny thing is it's going to be one of the busiest weeks and weekends of the year. But if you date back to pre-COVID, if we were to look at this weekend, we only have to be at the track for 2 days. It's going to be great.
Yeah, because didn't they do qualifying? Qualifying was on Thursday or Friday before, right?
Friday.
Yeah, and then there was another race, typically another series that was
Like the
racing
truck
on
series
Saturday.
or whatever it was. Yeah.
Are they doing?
They still do those races.
Okay.
Okay.
Still
You're gonna
have
be in
truck
Texas.
races Friday, Xfinity races Saturday. Neither of them have practice or qualifying either.
And you're
Gotcha.
going to be in Texas this weekend? Is that what it is?
Yep, Austin,
Yeah.
Texas. This will be our first time. So Austin, Texas has always hosted F1 every year. And I believe IndyCar as well. This will be the first time NASCAR's ever raced on that track.
Y'all are going to have a massive crowd.
Yes.
Massive. Because
Yeah,
I don't know if you heard about the fight last week, right? The boxing
Yep.
boxing match. 70,000 Canelo.
What for the first?
It was in Dallas.
Oh,
And they had
okay.
a 70,000 fans. It was the largest crowd to ever see a boxing match in the U.S. And so I assume that NASCAR is going to be as many as they can hold. I assume.
Especially as big as that track is.
Yeah.
And that they've never raced there before. So a lot of people in that Texas area are going to
It's pretty dope, man.
check this out for the first time.
Y'all are going to have a shit
I
ton of
have
people.
a friend from high school who lives down there. I've been trying to get him tickets for 3 months, ever since they lifted the mandate, which I believe was beginning of March, I think.
Yeah,
Texas.
probably.
I've been trying to get him 3 tickets for it, and it's not hard to get tickets for a race.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Also, everybody from California is moving to Austin.
That's
So
it.
then you have all the NASCAR fans that are following Rogan and Elon Musk to Austin.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me, I've been to a bunch of races living down in the Charlotte area for a long time, that the races it's not just the race. People come out to see the race. It's basically a festival. It's like the damn carnivals in town. You're there people come in for a week at a time, and they bring in their RVs, and they set up these like race villages, and there's things going on every single day, whether it's qualifying or other races or practices or races at the ZMAX track, or the dirt tracks around the area. So people just make this week's vacation, or they follow the series from city to city. Has that been different during COVID from your perspective as a professional, and are you looking forward to really having the fans back on a full-time basis?
Yeah, so I grew up going to the racetrack. My dad's been taking me to Dover and Pocono since I was 2 years old. I grew up a pretty big race fan. It's different. Like the past year, you have no fans in the stands, you have no fans on pit road. I think one of the most exciting things is when you win a race, the crowd goes wild. You have people in your pit stall going wild, high-fiving. I mean, the burnouts, the whole deal, and the whole weekend, really.
Yeah.
You pull into the racetrack, and there's people passed out in the infield drunk from the night before, or waking up
That's
at
a
6
fact.
a.m. drinking already for the race, because they've been going at it for
I'd
3
be
days.
Yeah.
Post-race, you leave the racetrack, people are asking for hats. Kids want autographs, the whole deal. It's during COVID when you would win a race, it's dead silent. You can't go to victory lane. There's no champagne spray. There's no confetti.
It's a little depressing, isn't it?
It's an eerie feeling almost.
Well, how do you think the drivers are going to react? Because I'm assuming that the Texas Austin Motor, is it Texas Motor Speedway? Is that what it is? I wonder if they're going to allow the fans on the infield and all the things that you're talking about to get autographs and all that, and how the drivers are going to react. Have you gotten any kind of feel about that at all?
Yeah, I think NASCAR. So they just lifted the mask mandate for us. So this past weekend was the first time we didn't have to wear a mask at the racetrack.
I bet you that.
which is coming at a good time because it's getting ready to hit summer and practices. But I think they're going to let him in the infield, but not on pit road. Need a hot pass to get on pit road, stand in the pit stall. I don't think they probably won't allow that. I heard something that a few big sponsors will be able to come into the track as long as they're vaccinated.
No doubt.
Sure.
But I don't think they'll just let any fans come in.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be great with the fans back.
Was your team and everybody that's associated able to get vaccinated so that you can remove the masks and be safe as you travel from city to city?
Yeah, they had a few opportunities. They came to the race shop.
Yep,
nice.
Had a whole vaccine clinic at the race shop. And then NASCAR held one for all NASCAR employees who didn't have a place like Joe Gibbs Racing, a company that big. So they were able to go to the racetrack as long as they had their NASCAR credential, and they were able to get vaccinated. So different options.
So the people that came to do the vaccine for you guys, that was done by Joe Gibbs and Joe Gibbs Racing?
Which company?
That you said the first time that they came to the shop, but that was a Joe Gibbs thing. That was a Joe Gibbs Racing company thing. That's pretty cool that they would do that. What is it like working for Joe Gibbs? Because this dude's a Hall of Famer in all aspects.
He's pretty intense.
Yeah,
you can see how he's so successful.
High levels of excellence, right?
Yeah.
He's 81, 82 years old.
Still getting it.
Before every race, he speaks and you listen, and he can amp you up pretty fast. And then
I can only imagine.
If his teams win, he's probably the most excited one on the whole garage area. So
yeah.
Yeah, I got to imagine.
Well, you guys have a super strong team. You've got the 19, you've got the Kyle Busch car, you've got the Hamlin team. That's easily three of the top 10, if not top 5, right there.
And I have Christopher Bell that's in the 20 car, and he's one of the best upcoming drivers. And he already has a win this season. So
nice. All right, so how does this work? So you're competing against each other every Sunday, right? No matter what the team is, right? So you're competing against each other, the other people in Joe Gibbs Racing, right? So do y'all work together when you're not competing against each other? Is there like sharing of parts, sharing of mechanics if something happens to somebody, like injury or sickness or okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how to do stuff.
All 4 cars are lined up next to each other in the shop.
Okay.
We share notes, we share data, we share everything. No matter what happens, back when we would practice, say the 18 car, say Kyle Busch wrecks in practice, you'll see guys from the 19, the 11, the 20 diving in on that 18 car, helping, making sure that their backup car is out and ready to go.
But race day is a completely different thing. No help on race day.
Same deal. Okay. We still work well together on race day. There's just 2 weeks ago, I believe there was 5 laps left in Kansas, was it? No. Somewhere, wherever it was. Wherever Kyle Busch won, Martin started right behind him. Martin pushed them to the win, pretty much. You have restarts where the drivers work together, say they're both starting on the outside row. If Martin's first and Kyle's second, they let each other in. They work together really well.
I'd like to see what kind of bets go back and forth between these guys.
Obviously, I don't know if you guys don't watch racing, you probably don't remember it, but they work with each other to a certain extent. And it was actually Kyle Busch in 2017 at Indianapolis. Martin and Kyle were working well together, and Kyle was leading and Martin was second, and Martin kept letting Kyle in so we could keep being 1-2 throughout the whole race. We ended up beating the 18 off pit road, and we were first, and the 18 was second. There was 40 laps to go, and now it was Kyle's turn to let us in, just like we had been doing to him the whole race. And Kyle said, it's too late in the race to help each other out. It's go time. So he didn't help us out, even though we had been helping him out the whole race. So they were both mad at each other. So when the green dropped, they both went into turn 1 as hard as they could, and they both wrecked. They took each other out.
Is it Kyle that doesn't have the best of reputations?
Yeah.
Right. That's what I thought. I don't know any specifics. I just that's all I do know.
I do remember something about I remember something about 130 miles per hour in a school zone with a brand new test Lexus or something like that.
And he also does the backflips.
No, that's
that was Carl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hey, explain something to me, because this doesn't make any sense to me. The 19 is in 3rd place right now in points, and you guys have more wins than anybody else on the series right now with 3. And yet you're 102 points behind the 11 in Denny Hamlin, and he hasn't won a single race. To people who aren't big followers of racing,
I'm people.
How does that work? It seems to me you guys should be number one with the bullet because you've won the most races and you've been very successful this year.
So
Inquiring.
so standings and bonus playoff points are different when you win a race. Best way to explain this. So they put stages, and so now you have stage 1, stage 2. If you finish first in the stages, you get 10 points to your standings. Second gets 9, third gets 8, so on. 10th place gets 1 point. If you finish outside of the top 10 at the end of the stage, you get 0 points. If you win a race, I think you only get 5 points more than second place.
That's how.
So, but you get 5 bonus points to the playoffs. So if you look at the playoff standings, we're leading the playoff standings because I think we have like 18 bonus points.
Right.
Where Denny Hamlin only has 3 or 4 or something from just stage wins.
Okay.
But Denny has been super consistent. Every stage, damn near every race, he's finishing second or third.
Mm-hmm.
So he's almost maximizing his points because at the end of every stage, he's getting 8 or 9 points. You know what I mean? Where sometimes we finish 7th or 8th in a stage, or sometimes like yesterday, we didn't even finish in the stages. So we had 0 stage points yesterday. Where Denny, I think, finished 4th and 5th and was able to get another 12 stage points.
All right, so I have it pulled up right here. So y'all are leading in the playoff points, 472 to 332, so ahead of Alex Bowman, right?
Yep.
So to your point, Tommy, Denny Hamlin's 11th.
Exactly.
So,
but at the end of the regular season, before the playoffs start, if you are first in regular season points, where Denny is right now, you get 15 playoff points.
Yeah.
It's so freaking confusing. It's ridiculous.
well, he top 10.
The whole stage thing and the whole playoff point thing has made racing so confusing to the basic fan who just, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
So there is an upside to being first in points, but you still, ultimately, the goal is to get as many wins as possible so you get as many playoff points.
Right. I was just going to ask you, would you rather be in the position of the number 11 car where you're leading in regular season points, or would you rather be in your position where you're leading in wins?
Position where you're leading in wins. Because also, if you finish first in the regular season, you get 15 bonus points, but then second gets 10, third gets 9. So our 3 wins give us 15 bonus points plus 8. Where Denny's only going to have the 15 bonus points.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
And plus, you guys get a little bonus.
That's
right?
what I
when
was
you
about
win
to
a race.
ask. Explain it however you want. Right.
So Coach Gibbs is a pretty smart guy where he's structured the bonus program to where someone like myself, I get the same bonus if Kyle Busch or Denny Hamlin wins that if Martin Truex wins.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
That way, it's just as important if those guys win, and I'm just as excited if those guys win.
No doubt.
Sure. Your primary responsibility is to the 19, but then you help everybody else. I got it. Okay.
So what if you guys win the championship? What kind of bonus are we talking about now? Is it like on definitely? I would assume it'd be on a larger scale. But is there a set structure for that, or is it just hey, this guy gets this much?
No, they do. So they do a percentage.
Okay.
For like all the crew guys, it's like I want to say. It's like they take like 12% or whatever the percentage is, and they divide it up among the crew guys.
Nice, sure.
Championship and Daytona 500 are definitely the biggest.
Yeah.
Purses.
I bet Daytona was weird this year.
What's that?
I said I bet Daytona was weird this year. Because they didn't have any fans in February. There's no way.
What's that?
Florida was pretty wide open for this whole thing.
It wasn't max, but it was a limited.
Yeah. So how is it different being on the Gibbs team at number 19 than when you were with Furniture Row Racing with Truex? You got the same driver, you got the same crew chief. How is the experience different for you?
Less controlled, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. To the sense of where Joe Gibbs is a big company.
Yeah.
All 4 cars, and we want all 4 cars equal. So if the 19 thinks of something or does something that can better the cars, you share it with your competitors, but your teammate. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we share.
And they do the same with you.
We're at Furniture Row. we were a single car team. So
Yeah.
if we found something that benefited us, it benefited us, and we didn't have to let our competitors / teammates know about it.
But you didn't
We
get the
away with a lot
benefit.
more stuff.
You didn't get the benefit though of having 3 other teams there and getting all their data and assistance as well.
Yeah, we didn't get. I mean, some because we were like
Yeah.
a Joe Gibbs affiliate at that time, but
Okay.
not to the extent that we do now.
Couple questions. Number one, who was your favorite driver growing up? Ernie Irvan. Okay. All right. So what made you an Ernie Irvan fan?
I don't know. I think my dad was an Ernie Irvan fan in the
Okay.
late '80s.
So you had the T-shirts and the
Oh,
hats
yeah,
and
yeah.
all the things.
You know,
All right.
see, I was a Dick Trickle fan, and I
T-shirts,
think that's
hats.
self-explanatory. I said I was a Dick Trickle fan, and I think that's self-explanatory.
Sometimes you can't take him anywhere.
I think Tommy knows that.
And what's your favorite track? Or has been your favorite track? Hell yeah, why not? You
Yeah,
said
we
it's the
just
worst
won
on
that last
tires. You said it's the worst on tires, but that's
It's
your,
the worst
so
on
that's your
tires, but it's an awesome track. It just has, you roll into Darlington and it has the 1950s feel.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. It's in the racing there is so good.
Okay.
South Carolina. If you haven't been to a race and you're going to go to your first race, go to Darlington.
not Talladega. That's what I've been told.
And super speedway racing is
It's different.
it's different. It's not. It's pack racing. It's cool, but it's so big. It's tough to. You can really only see what's in front of you.
Yeah.
If you want to really see racing and see cars sliding around and guys coming off the corner sideways, it's you want to see.
What about Martinsville? Is that a good one to go to?
It was pretty cool. Really
Yeah.
short track.
And that's
slower
pretty
speeds.
close. That's pretty close to us. We're about an hour and 2 hours away.
Martinsville has a lot of cool traditions too. Like,
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, I've never been.
It's always good to have one of those in your house.
Ah,
Nice.
My wife's grandmother has one. It doesn't work, but we need to get that fixed for sure.
So
I
Tommy,
make sure that thing doesn't work. It dings and it stopped. The first 2 weeks, I was like, oh yeah, I kept cranking it up because I was so excited. And then finally, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like waking you up at 12:15 or some shit. You're like,
so Tommy, you mentioned that you got into racing in 2007, and you know it's 2021. You're the tire specialist on one of the most successful teams in racing for the number 19 Martin Truex. How does somebody, first of all, how did you get into racing, and how can some kid who's listening to this that's always been a huge fan go, I want to be in 15, 20 years, I want to be where Tommy is today? How does somebody do that?
Well,
Start with how you got
learn a
into
lot
it.
about tires.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
so
to
that,
races.
that's the direction I had to go to. So when I first came in, moved down to North Carolina, I wanted to be a tire changer. Unfortunately, the pit crew, if you're not at the upper echelon of that, I mean, your career is short. Those pit crew guys have a short career. And I started doing that in 2007. Did it 7, 8, 2009 up until 2012, and I was still pitting, changing tires. Truck Series, ARCA, was doing some cup races here and there, but for back running teams, nobody that was like a winning contention. So finally, I just wanted to get, knowing that the career was short and that I wanted to have some longevity in the career. So I started picking up tires, started learning about them, started getting into the science involved with tires, the volume inside, the temperatures, how the sun makes it build, the car makes it, the cloudiness, the coolness of the tire, the stiffness, there's so many different things to a tire that a lot of people don't recognize.
Yeah.
So 2012, 2013, I started playing with that and started changing tires and being a tire specialist just because I wanted to get into that side of it. So I went to BK Racing in 2013, started doing it for that Cup team for Travis Quapple. And it kind of started taking off there in the Cup Series. And my crew chief at the time, Mike Ford, who used to be Denny Hamlin's crew chief, he was very knowledgeable with tires. And he would make me ride to and from the racetrack with him. The guys would be in a team van together, and he would make me ride with him. Our ride to the hotel, he'd say, this is what we're going to do with tires. It's going to be 75 degrees. It's going to be sunny. We need to have tires set here. We need to set them at this time. We need to do this. The guy was so particular, and he ingrained that in me to treat it. He always said treat tires like babies because it is. They're so sensitive. Like I said, 0.3 of air can adjust how the driver feels. You know, how the hell can the sun coming out and the cloud coming out not adjust it when it's increasing it and decreasing it by 2, you know, in a matter of 20 minutes. So just because, like you said, he always said treat them like babies, and just because he was so anal about it, it made me be that way. And then at the end of 2014, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so you got an opportunity to make a transition from actually being one of the athletes who is jumping over the wall and changing the tires. No, they're athletes.
Oh, I know.
Man, those guys are
I know.
buff.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why there's a shelf life.
Yeah, you got an opportunity to be more on the engineering side of the business that extended your longevity. But how does somebody even get to that point? Like, how do you know? There had to be something that there was an entry point for you to even just getting into changing tires. Like, how does somebody go, I want to be in that? Who do I contact? What high school counselor do you talk to say, how can I get a job on a race team changing tires?
High school counselor.
So when I moved down here to start changing tires, I let my mouth do the talking, I guess. I started waiting tables at a restaurant called the Little Dewey on Speedway Boulevard. And guys from Roush Racing used to come in there and eat lunch. And as I was waiting on them, I'd talk to the crew guys, talk to the shop guys, start BSing with them a little bit. And I was, just a waiter at the end of 2006. A bartender at the place I worked at, his nephew worked at Roush on the 26 car. I went out drinking with them one night after a shift, just like you do, working at Red Rocks, go across the street, Fox and Hound, have a couple drinks, and BS. So that's what we did, and one of the guys that was with us that night was a tire changer on the Xfinity side, but his job at the shop, which every shop has it, and it's one of the entry-level, it's funny, it's one of the entry-level positions as a shop guy when you're a pit crew head.
Yeah.
You take care of all the pit stop tires. You glue up all the pit stop tires for the pit crews. You clean all the tires after the pit crews use them. And that was his job in the shop.
Sure.
So he would say, come up to the shop, come up to the gate, help me with my job. Pretty much I was doing it for free. And this guy was getting, so he was like, help me glue tires, help me do this. And when we're done and the guys are at lunch, I'll show you how to change tires. It wasn't live pit stops. He would just jack the car up. I'll hook the gun up. He's like, I'll show you, teach you some ins and outs, and then you just take it from there. That was
nice.
Yeah, that shit looks intense.
It was a lot of hours of free work.
Yeah, it seems like the equivalent of I want to be an actor, so I'm going to move to LA and get a job as a server, and hopefully I meet somebody that gives me my first part.
Well, as we know, you and I, networking works.
Yeah, of course it
does.
That's
just another form of networking Tommy did. He ran his mouth until somebody couldn't say no, and that's the way it works.
Nice.
Everywhere. That's how I got one of my good friends, I think Tom remembers, Jordan, who played for the Browns at the time. He ended up getting traded. He was an NFL wide receiver. I don't know if you remember the Super Bowl when the Panthers played the Broncos. He had the long. So anyway, when he went to the Broncos, I was working at BK Racing at the end of 2014.
Okay.
And I'd never been to Denver, Colorado in my life. I was going to a Broncos game, and it was mid-December, and I was leaving the shop to go to the plane. And one of the guys on the team, as I was walking out of the shop, he was giving me crap. He was like, hey, man, where are you going? He goes, you can't leave early, like just joking around, like taking a half day. I was like, I'm flying to Colorado. And at that time, there was like buzz around that the 78, that Furniture Row Racing was starting a second team, which they weren't. It was all say, it was all BS. It was never happening. But he happened to say to me as I was walking out, he was going to Denver. He goes, what are you going to apply for the second team out there at Furniture Row? And I was like, what do you mean second team at Furniture Row? He goes, Furniture Row Racing starting a second team. I figured you were going out there for an interview. I was like, no, I'm going out there for a football game. I'm sitting at the airport in Charlotte waiting for my flight. The tire specialist on the 78, I just knew from the racetrack, because the guys, the other tire specialists on other teams.
Yeah.
I sent him a text message, and I said, hey, man, I'm coming in town this weekend. I've never been to Colorado. I'm going out there for the Broncos game, staying with my buddy downtown. let me know if you want to catch up and have a beer. It was off season. I hadn't seen him since the season, which was like a month and a half before that. He was like, yeah, hell yeah. He was like, give me a ring. I'll take you by the shop. You can see the shop. I was like, okay. Got to Colorado. Went to Jordan's house the next day. I think Jordan had some stuff to do the day before. And so I went and met Chad, and we had a beer, and he had said, he was like, I'm sorry, we're not starting a second team, but I'm coming off the road. He's like, so we need a new tire specialist. He said, is there any interest? And hell yeah. To the football game the next day. I went home, got a call back from the crew chief on that team 4 days later and said, hey, man, I heard you're interested. Do you want to fly back out here and do an interview? 2 days later, I'm on a plane. This is 6 days after I've ever been to Denver. So back out to Colorado, had an interview, flew all the way back home. The next day after I flew home, he called me, said I had the job. I moved out 5 days later.
Dope.
I got all my clothes in a trash bag and moved to Colorado. So within 2 weeks of the first time of me ever being to Colorado, I ended up living up there.
That's like
for the next 5 years.
all the glories of being on the crew of a professional NASCAR team is you move with 5 days notice with all your shit in the trash bag. That's like being a damn hobo, man. You got a stick with a handkerchief and everything.
Hey, look, right place, right time, Tommy.
Hey, that's good.
Things happen for a reason, bro. Do you ever have any aspirations to do anything different, like crew chief or anything of that level?
Somewhat. I'm actually going. So Gibbs has a program where they pay for college. So I've been, for the last 2.5 years, I've been going back to college and getting business administration degree.
Congrats,
Good for
man.
you, man.
On that. So finance and marketing. So
Dope.
it's weird. Most guys in my position, want to become a crew chief or that, but I like the marketing side. I like BSing with the sponsorship people. And I
Bro,
feel
that's where the money is.
That's
man.
what-
I said that's where the money is.
Because that's what we also enjoy doing. So
walk around, BS, talk to people, and then try to find sponsors, get sponsors, introduce people.
do you play golf, Tommy?
And no offense to the current guys, but a lot of the guys who had that position, the marketing position, they've been in the marketing position their whole life. I think someone who's been a tire changer, who's been a mechanic, who's been a tire specialist, who's done so many different things around the NASCAR garage, would probably have a lot to say, taking some high-level sponsors around the racetrack and showing them
plus,
what is going on.
And plus, being an old Northeastern Italian guy, you got that gift of gab anyway. So it's a little bit different than getting a twangy guy from the shop that comes out there and tries to target marketing with the sponsors. It's not the same.
So
it's what my mom always told me. She goes, I don't know what it is about you, but you always seem to step in shit. It's mainly because of my mouth.
Yeah. So how's your golf game, Tommy?
Nuts.
Because if you're going to be in the getting sponsorship realm, you might want to sharpen that up a little bit.
This is your guy.
The worse I am at golf, the more drinks I have, the more
Well, Tommy, you already get 4 or 5 hours with them on the course, man. The more balls you lose, the longer it takes, the longer you have. You know what I'm saying? The more you can just build that relationship. I love to take people out to the golf course for business. That's really how I make my money.
So one last question Dre has is, do you ever get to drive the car?
Yeah.
No. Ever want to?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big iRacer.
Yeah.
You guys have ever heard of iRacing?
No.
I wish I could show you my setup upstairs, but I can't take the monitor up there. But I have the seat, the steering wheel and pedal, the whole deal, the whole cockpit deal, the screen TV. I do league races. Tonight we have a race at 9 o'clock that always streams live on YouTube.
Shut up. Okay. So what's the website?
What's the YouTube channel?
I believe it's called Max Speed TV. I'm in a couple different things, but I believe this one is Max Speed TV.
Max Speed TV.
On YouTube.
What time does it start? Dre is going crazy over here.
Yeah, he's a huge NASCAR fan.
What time does it start?
9 o'clock.
9 p.m. Now, it
is. It's on Max Speed TV, and it is the ARCA series at Indianapolis.
Okay, so again, pardon my ignorance. I'm sure your setup is insane, but so this is like a big video game?
It's a setup.
Okay, so it's like a big video.
It's all driver. You can't change, and you can't even change tire pressure. Every single car, all 35 cars or whatever's in the field have the exact same setup.
That's very interesting.
All right.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
I had no idea.
So, Tommy, we're at about an hour, and we want to be respectful of your time because we know you just got off work
got
and you
shit
had
to
a
do.
long weekend.
I
It's
really-
over.
The only thing I really have to do before I pick up my kids from daycare is get up there and practice Indianapolis for the night because I'm probably going to
That's a fair point. So, is there anything else that
Dre
you
wants
want to
this set up.
share? Anything else you want to share with the audience that they may not know about either your job or the industry of racing or anything like that that isn't common knowledge that you think you wish people knew that they're ignorant about?
just they need to go.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to experience a race. I think you need to get there. If a race starts at 1 o'clock, you need to get there 4 hours before the race.
Start
It's
drinking.
key. It's not like a basketball or a football game. You bring a cooler of beer that fits about 12 beers on ice, put it between your legs, see
Sounds
all
like
they
my
have
kind
to
of place.
see, get there, see the anthem, the pre-race ceremonies.
Yeah, man. The 600's coming up here
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
so we might
It's
have
max
to go
capacity.
see that.
It's
It's a
gonna be
max
packed.
capacity already.
Oh,
Well,
dude, can you
I think
imagine?
it was max capacity prior to the governor opening
Yeah,
up.
which he just
everything.
did, so-
he just opened up everything full capacity in North Carolina. So
It's probably still full
they-
capacity.
Yeah?
This is North Carolina. Imagine.
I don't
Okay.
know. We'll see.
I actually-
they announced it that once the governor opened it up, they went to full capacity, no guidelines, no masks, no
Telling you,
nothing.
man.
So
Yeah. It's full.
I
Yep.
have a common misconception that I've always heard
Yeah.
is that drivers are not athletes.
That's
and-
false.
Oh
that is
no,
absolutely
no jokes.
false.
Like how much that the thing is, how much does it take to really drive around in a car for 500 miles? It takes a lot. Yeah, I've seen the strikes.
Come to my house sometime, and I'll
Okay.
put you on my iRacing simulator
Okay.
for 10 minutes and tell me how tired you are.
Okay, we can do a remote show.
And that's not even a real race car. Where
Right.
you have the G's and everything going through your body. That
Man.
thing's, I'll race that race tonight. I'll run about 50, 60, 70 laps, and I'll be drenched in sweat.
Holy crap!
Tommy, I get
Arms
tired doing
tired.
it. I get tired doing a 15-minute go-kart race.
Yes,
like
at rush
that.
hour.
It's time. You have to
It
be-
is, man.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I was like, because every time somebody would say that, I'd be like, no, you guys, they lose like 100 pounds during these races. They're
Yeah.
all suited up and stuff, but man,
Yeah,
they sweat
have
for
to-
a reason.
Those guys have to work out.
Oh, yeah,
All
it's
the guys
nuts.
have to work out.
That's nuts. You don't
Yeah.
see fat NASCAR drivers.
Not anymore.
I don't know if you did to begin with. They got to fit behind them wheels, boy. I don't know.
Yeah.
That shit's tight, dude.
Well, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else. Anything else, man? Do you have anywhere that you want our listeners to follow you? Any pages, Truex or anything like that you want to give a shout out to?
My Instagram, everything's TJ DiBlasi. So
TJ DiBlasi. Okay, so TJ DiBlasi. Okay.
That's the
Okay.
Gotcha.
Tommy, we
Where can we find us? How to do
we
that?
can find us all over the place. So we are Jay Schmo Sports on all social media, Joe Schmo Sports Show at gmail.com, Jay Schmo Sports, or is it Joe Schmo Sports on YouTube?
Joe Schmo Sports, yeah.
Schmo Sports Show on YouTube, yeah. And thanks for being here, dude. This has been enlightening. For
Thanks
sure,
for-
especially for people that have zero clues on NASCAR. So this was nice. I learned a lot of new words today, which I will try to implement for sure.
try to use it today.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Exactly. He's going to be talking about
Data and
stagnation.
stagger. And, yeah, I'm gonna use all these things.
Yeah.
So Tommy, thank you so much, man, and good luck this weekend. It sucks you're gonna be spending more time away from the family, but it's a
Enjoy
good job.
the fans, man.
Yeah, enjoy the
It's
fans,
fun.
bro. Enjoy the fans. It's gonna be a blast.
Will do. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
thanks,
for having
brother.
me. See
Have
you
a good
guys.
day.
Thanks, Tommy. Until next time, we are the Schmoes, and cut to the theme music.
Let's do it.
The Joe Schmo. Joe